Welcome to another episode of the InfoTech Growth Partner Podcast, the podcast where the future of IT unfolds, and we dive deep into the pertinent developments in regards to IT and data with leaders and experts in the IT consulting field. My name is Jasper, and today I have the pleasure to have Sander Dales in the show. Sander is the founder and CEO of Short Teams, and it's an honor to have you on the show, Sander. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. For the listeners and for the viewers, can you give us a little bit of insight into your own background, what you do at Short Teams or what you do as a company in Short Teams, and what your role within a company is as well?
Of course. So I've been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years. Not always within Short Teams, within the current company. Had other companies in the past which I've sold, but it was always related to IT development in different industries. And at some point we had our own development agency, and we had experience with let's say we had a capacity issue, basically finding resources, finding good developers. And so we had experience with nearshoring and offshoring, a subject we'll talk about a little bit later as well. But we had issues finding the right people. So we gained experience with companies from Eastern Europe, from Asia. We've had good experiences, we've had bad experiences. And basically we came to the conclusion that we came to two conclusions. One, we can do better, right? So because it wasn't good enough, especially because of the bad experiences, we can do better. And the second thing was we came to the conclusion that we don't like the actual development, right? So we don't like the actual development work in IT. We have always been hunters. We like to find new business, motivate people, get them excited, help them understand what we do, obviously, and what we mean to them and how we can help them move forward. And then we needed the right partners, IT agencies, which are our partners, to help our clients move forward. So now we have a pool of a few hundred partners globally, IT partners, IT agencies who work through us for multiple clients, mainly in, let's say, Western countries. So where economy is high. And that's basically what we do. So we help our clients. Now we help our clients. I'm obviously founder and CEO. A colleague of mine, Ilke, is also his co-founder, and now we have built our own team, obviously in our own company, and we are helping other companies make use of remote development teams. And we focus now currently on centers of excellence, what they would call it, or development teams. So not single developers. Usually we actually build teams and help clients make use of staff augmentation, of team augmentation, basically.
Yeah, and I can imagine, and also after speaking to a lot of leaders in IT consulting firms as well, is that is one of the biggest pain points, being able to find the right IT people in the first place.
Yeah.
But then even in the second place, it's about being able to retain them because they are in high demand.
Yeah.
And everyone is looking for those technical IT people, especially with the constant development in IT and constant needs of improving and enhancing your IT systems.
What we like, what we like with clients, they basically they need to have nice projects. They need to have good work, right? So previously, in the past, people might think that all the boring job can be done by external developers, for example. Right. Although they are external, the way we work, they actually become part of your in-house team. Right. They might work remote, but they are part of your in-house team, of the way you work. They are almost similar to people who are working in. But you can't just give them all the boring stuff, because they will be, as you mentioned, there's high demand. Someone else says, hey, I have better job, better payment, or whatever. Still, since our partners are, let's say, mainly in Central Eastern Europe, Asia, some African countries, South America, all where labor cost is lower. So it can still mean that you can benefit from lower costs. But if you want the right quality, if you want the right experts, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to reduce cost versus hiring someone in the Netherlands, for example, right? Or in a Western country. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It means, in this case, it means you have access to a really big pool of developers. So you can actually cherry pick. You can say, okay, which one is the best? We have a process in place that we have the ability to find people within, let's say, 48 hours, something like that. The first initial people, which could be a match for whatever resource, whatever job description you have, whatever resource you're looking for. And after you have that, after you have a first selection, we have like a pre-screening interview ourselves, checking if this one good enough. We create a recording, we share the recording with the client, and the client can say, hey, out of all of these, which I've seen right now, I want to actually interview maybe 3. So we basically have a process, and that we can do that for all of the roles that they want from all over the world, depending on requirements, basically on preferences that any client might have.
Yeah, and I can see the benefits, of course, as you mentioned yourself. You can cherry pick people. It's pretty quick that you can onboard new developers or architects or engineers, whichever role that they need. Is there still a situation where companies should go for an internal team? So
Yeah.
like building their own internal team, hiring them directly. Is there still an option
Yeah.
for that and still a situation to do that?
I think, yes, absolutely. I think the core of any business, and I'm talking about the people who work on the core of any application, for example, they should be internal. Preferably people who are in a position that they determine which way to go, right, with the development. So CTO, for example, there are options that you have a remote CTO. It exists. We would recommend have a CTO within your company, have maybe a product owner within your company, someone who actually sets out the rules. And then in this case, if you want to scale up, if you need more people and you already have a few developers, let's say in a team, it's easy to extend. Obviously, there are options to extend a whole team, right? But then it would still be recommended to have people within the heart of the company knowing what's happening, what's where. Obviously, all of the IT agencies, the partners we work with, and the developers, they are at a high level, so they know how to deal with documentation, making sure that the documentation and also the intellectual property is and will stay at the client side, right? So the client obviously knows what to do, but still we recommend, even if you split, if the developer leaves or whatever, or the whole team or your stop, doesn't really matter. The basic knowledge and information of whatever has been created is the client side, and it's always good to have a few people, at least a few people within the client side who have deeper knowledge on this.
Yeah, and I have some experience working as a product owner as well in a company, which I really saw that, and I had to deal with outside developers. Let's take like that. We were really working on the specific business critical application that I was responsible for. And it's indeed, now you say it, it's indeed very important to have someone in the team, in the core team, which is really aware of what the business wants, where the business should go, what the internal colleagues who actually work with the system or whatever, what they actually need and what they actually want. So that is definitely.
It depends on. So may I ask, what did you obviously talk about your experience as product owner, and you work with external team or team members, resources. What is your experience?
I think it was great working with those people. Like this system, this application was provided by that company. So they also provided the developers. These developers were all over the world. think Paraguay, Mexico, Cyprus, Hungary. Those were the types of people that I was working with on a daily basis.
Yeah, nice.
And I experienced it as great, as a great situation to be in. They already have a very good knowledge about the system. They have constant contact with other developers who are working at other client sites, which helps us to find new innovations, find solutions for specific problems that we have that other businesses might have encountered already.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's great my experience was that it was great to work with outside developers while still involving people from our company as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the sweet spot, and that's normally the perfect situation to be in. So, especially when you want to scale up, when you need more resources, when you need more hands to actually get the work done, to get to market sooner, or whatever. Some projects are really big. They might take a few years, and it might take hundreds of people. It's hard to find those people. For us, at least in a local market, it's hard to find them. Because there is a high demand, right? And so what we basically do is we open the possibility, in this case, to hire from all over the world and to actually cherry pick from many vendors. And what we take care of, obviously, is that our clients have one point of contact, and whatever resource they need, we can quickly find it. We can take care of pre-screenings. They can actually interview the ones that are most relevant and most promising, and then hire how many they might need.
Yeah.
Right? So that's basically how. So I understand where you're coming from, and I understand your experience, and I also like the fact. I think this is also something that we will see in the future more and more and more. That people don't necessarily. Obviously, COVID was on the one hand a bad thing. On the other hand, it also gave us new insights and gave us new opportunities. And one of them is that also larger organizations started seeing that it is possible to actually work together remotely. If you have the right tools, if you have the right processes in place, we have a whole remote team ourselves, right? So if you look at it, and I'm not talking about the developers, if you look at our own team of finance, of business development, of sales, of any creative role that we have, everything for us is remote. We have an office in Amsterdam. We never ever have to go to Amsterdam. We have people working in Serbia, in North Macedonia, in the Philippines, in India, in Bangladesh, in Suriname. So all over the world, and they work together, right? So they actually work together, and we can do that without actually. Obviously, it's good for us to occasionally visit each other. So we like to encourage also our clients to do that. Go visit your let's say remote team or people if possible, or have them come over, right? And then spend a few days actually working together, but not only working, maybe also have dinner, enjoy a little bit of time, and you actually create a bond. And then it doesn't really matter anymore where you are based, where you're located, where you're from. As long as you understand each other, you're on the same page, and you have a solid process in place to communicate and to actually get things done.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And do you always also see a change in the fact that when some of your clients hire some people from you, some contractors or whatever, do you also see a shift that they eventually transition into their internal team? Like they stop being a employee of your partners, but they end up going into those clients' businesses as well?
Yeah, it is possible that, let's say, after a year or so, that they actually move to the client, right? It's still since many people, obviously, they have their own lives, they have families, they have kids, so moving is usually more difficult, right? But it could very well be that they become or that they will be on the payroll, let's say, of the client, because that's basically the major difference. It depends a bit on what the client is looking for, what the client needs, and also if you're talking about flexibility and scaling up and scaling down, obviously that's a different motivation. That's a different, let's say, way that you want to work maybe with a remote team. compared to we have clients who are working with developers for years already, right? And they like just the fact that obviously we are able to help them out with anything they need with the current developers, but also maybe whenever they need new developers or a replacement, because people, they have lives, they might want a career switch. Not everyone obviously stays in the position they were hired for. So, but that's and we like obviously to have the contact with the client. Like I said, we are far more focused on that, and basically we are an extension to our IT partners, the agencies, because we are like let's say a sales department for them. We find new business. We like to know what clients actually are looking for. Dive into that, try to understand the client the best way possible, and then help the client the best way possible by matching them with the perfect partner and the perfect developers to actually get the work done and create whatever they need to create.
Yeah, and I want to zoom in on that a little bit, on the IT partners and the IT agencies that you work with, because I think that's quite. I haven't seen it that much in the space, and you mentioned that you're more of the middleman, where you really enjoy the hunting and generating new business and providing that one point of contact for clients as well. I think you work with a pool of around 400 development partners worldwide.
Yeah.
Just give me a perspective on how do you find those partners and how do you select and sort of qualify those parties?
Yeah. So there are two ways that we actually find partners, or let's say that we get new partners. One is they find us. And so we don't have to do anything regarding that, but we are, if there is a business developer or a sales manager from let's say an IT agency, they Google, they find us, and they see, hey, this could be an interesting opportunity, an interesting channel for us to gain new business, to find new business. So they find us. That's option one, and the other option is whenever we have inquiries from clients. Obviously, we have many partners, but we also every time try to engage with new partners and find new partners who are able to deliver. So if you look at the partner base, I would say that we have, it actually moves with demand. So if demand moves to, let's say, the future, let's say to AI, right? So if more and more companies are looking for developers that can work with AI, for example, then we get more inquiries focused on AI. We find more partners ourselves because we have people who are actually actively using real life cases to find partners who are skilled in AI. So we might not be able to use it for that current situation, but the next one who comes in and is looking for AI, obviously we have vetted the partner. So whenever they come in, obviously not everyone is granted. I mean, we have a certain quality standard, obviously, and if you look at what we stand for, usually our focus is not price, our focus is quality. Right? Because with quality developers, you get much farther than with a low price developer. Because if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, right? So that's what we try to make clear, at least to any client. Obviously, they have a certain goal. They want to achieve something, and you need qualified partners and qualified developers to actually get the work done in a way that they will be happy, and that in the end also the partner and the developers are happy. That's why we also need nice projects, because otherwise they'll leave.
Yeah, that is a very good point. And I think I want to also zoom in a little bit on, because how I see you short teams is more of a platform, sort of, which brings together demand and supply. Because of course I've been engaging with some IT resourcing companies as well, who are really providing people, if you can say it simply, and they have quite some difficulties finding new clients. But you are really bridging that gap and fulfilling and putting supply and demand together on sort of a platform where you are the one point of contact. You can do the selection of people, the pre-screening, as you mentioned. You allow potential clients to quickly find people and pick the people based on your screening as well. which I think is a very value adding thing, both for the clients because they tap into a big pool, but also for the IT partners who can find
Absolutely.
new businesses.
Yeah, and I think although we are, because if you would ask, our lawyer, he would say, "You're a platform. We're a platform. We offer some sort of platform." So in legal documents that we have, it's a platform, right? So, uh, however, we are not like, you can't compare us to, for if you look at client side, you can't compare us to, let's say, a job board, because we actually engage with the client, have meetings with the client, understand what the client is looking for, and then check, okay, so this is what you're looking for. Usually it's not one position. As I said, we focus on teams, we focus on building whole centers of excellence. Let's say it could also be 40, 50, 60 developers if needed, right? So, or more. So, but also, let's say 5 to 15 people, if that should be in a team. Usually a team consists of 5 to 15 people, and then if you need more, it will be multiple teams. So we listen to whatever the client is looking for, and then use this information to match this to the partners, because we know we have a lot of data of our partners. What are their skills? Even things like, what is their revenue? How long do they exist? What is their staff turnover? So because we want to know how we want to create long-term lasting collaborations. That's basically our goal. We want to create the perfect match. Both ends should be extremely happy with the collaboration, right? So clients should be over the moon, partners should be over the moon, right? So, and if we can create that match, that's our focus. And so that's why we know exactly what a partner has to offer, and we check with them. Okay, so this is what we have. Which partner could provide this? We reach out to these partners. Obviously, we use some sort of mechanism, some sort of platform for that, to actually make sure that they know what kind of resources clients are looking for, and they can obviously share their, let's say, their solutions, their candidates, whatever they want. Then based on that, the client can actually select, hey, these are interesting, these candidates are interesting, or this proposal is interesting, depending on what the client is actually looking for. And then, if needed, we can take care of, as I said before, pre-screening interviews, so that they don't actually lose time on interviewing many people. Depending on if you focus on bigger teams, if you want to hire, let's say, 15 people, you might need to review 150 CVs. I don't know, right? Depending on obviously what you're looking for, and the level of experience that you're looking for, and maybe you have other requirements because you prefer, let's say, Europe over any other area of the world. So, or some clients, they prefer to work 24/7. So they might have a team in Europe, they might have a team in Asia, and they might have a team in South America. So they can actually work the clock round. Or they prefer, let's say, maybe lower rates over, let's say, similar time zone. So they would go for Asia, for example, instead of Europe, right? So it depends a bit on what the client is looking for, and basically, if we need to take care of, and this is usually something that we have in the, let's say, in the default process that we have, is that we take care of pre-screening interviews. We actually have some of the questions that are important to the client. So we discuss this with the client. What kind of questions are important? What will you ask in an interview? And then we already have a recording in place for them with the developer answering some of those questions. If, let's say, English, obviously in the work that we do, the level of English is important. So if it's not sufficient, we can easily already eliminate someone. The CV might be good, but if the level of English is not good enough, let's get rid of it and only focus on, let's say, the 5, 6, 7 that are actually good, right? And actually come across really good also, because it's a video interview basically that we already do. And then they can have a live interview with them, checking whether they are a real match, yes or no, or go deeper in whatever
Yeah,
discussion.
I'm curious how that works. So if you get an inquiry from a client who, well, needs, let's say, 20 people, let's just put a number there. How does that
Yeah.
work? Do you just share that demand on the platform, share it with all of the partners? They can then apply, they can apply people to it that they have available, and then you select and sort of also cherry pick people from different partners? Or is it that you select one partner that who can fulfill the whole team?
Good question. Good question. It depends on what the client actually is looking for. So we would recommend, if possible, to cherry pick because you'll actually get the best of the best. However, some partners prefer maybe to actually visit and then have one location to actually visit a team, or they somehow prefer that they do actually work together on the same location. We see more and more that it doesn't really matter, right? That they would prefer to cherry pick, and then it doesn't really matter where they're based, as long as they are able, obviously, to work together. Usually, our clients, they have tools in place that they can already work remotely. Otherwise, we can obviously assist in setting this up. But it depends. Basically, it depends on what the client is looking for, and we have partners. If you look at our partners, some of them they might have 40, 50 developers, but the bigger ones they have thousands of developers. So it really depends on your preference. And so when we are first engaging with a new client, and they have a certain need, we actually have a lot of questions, obviously, about what they are actually looking for, what they're aiming for, what do they want to achieve, what kind of preferences do they have, would they prefer, let's say, a boutique agency, or let's say a corporate as someone who is dealing with whatever they need, right? So, and would they what kind of rates are they looking for? What kind of time zone are they looking for? Does it matter, yes or no? So there are many factors, but we discuss this in a preliminary phase, somewhere at the beginning, obviously, and then we check which partners are part of could actually deliver this, and we only reach out to those partners because the rest obviously is not relevant, and then obviously they can come back to us and say, okay, these candidates or this proposal, or depending on what the client is actually looking for.
So in the end, the client decides eventually.
The client decides. The good thing, I think, because we've been in business quite a while, and we have had experience with different kind of business models. I think we pick the things that are good, not only for us, but also for the client, because the client decides, but also for the IT agency, because the IT agency determines whether they want to engage, yes or no. So if we reach out to them and say, hey, we're looking for the X amount of whatever kind of developer, can you provide? And they say, no, it's not our cup of tea, right? We might be able to offer it, but it's a tight market currently, and they don't feel like it or whatever. It doesn't really matter. They're in charge. However, if they want to get engaged, they can get engaged, and the client again can pick which ones are most interesting. So we leave it up to them. Basically, we try to help them the best way possible. And in our world, in our vision, in our company, we can only succeed if we can create the perfect match. Because if the client is not happy, they're not going to move forward, right? If we don't offer any nice projects or any solid opportunities to our partners, they're not going to move forward. So we can only actually do it if we do a good job.
And that's really one of the last things that I want to touch upon. As you mentioned, it is a win for the client, it is a win for the IT agency, and it's also a win for you guys, of course, by being in between that.
Yeah.
Can you share some real world examples, some case studies? Of course, you don't have to name names, but a story, a transformation that really showcases the value for each of the three actors in this platform.
Yeah. So one of the things which I think is a nice one, and I'm actually quite proud of that. This was for BASF, so I can name them because there is no clause that I can't name them. BASF, the chemistry concern, right? So this was one for a subsidiary of them. They were actually having a project. They would pull the plug if they would not be able to find, let's say, a team replacement for someone in let's say a few weeks' time. And so our point of contact, he was not very hopeful, at the beginning, but we actually managed to find, let's say, a very high level team lead as a starting point, because that was the initial role he needed. He needed a whole team, but then his team lead left, and he said, okay, we can't continue, and they're going to pull the financial plug if we don't find anyone and can't continue within, let's say that it was 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. And we actually built a team within that period. The client was over the moon, obviously, which is good for the client, but it's also a nice, stable, reliable client for any of our IT agencies, any of our partners. So that was definitely a win-win-win.
Yeah.
And we have multiple cases, of companies who we actually help out. I can't name all of them, but one of them is a large global NGO. Everyone would know them, but they have, because it's an NGO, they have limited funds. So they are actually looking for developers based in India, which is very well possible. There are people who have less good experiences with, let's say, Asian people. But it is because there is a cultural difference. So I don't think it's never the intention to do things wrong. It's just how we are brought up in Europe, and how we get educated. And we learn how to solve problems. We learn how to ask questions. So from elementary school, everyone learns to ask questions in the whole of Europe. So we work in a certain way. That's why it's more comfortable to work with someone, let's say, in Central or Eastern Europe, because they are far more like us and they think in a similar way. Now, if you go to Asia, they are at school, they are taught to how to do stuff, like not to ask questions. At least not. That's not the main way of teaching. So teaching over there is different compared to here, and that's why when we say, "Hey, can you fix this or can you do this? Are you able to get it done by whenever?" They'll all say yes, 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 right? And so it's a matter of communicating. And how do you communicate with each other? And it's a different world if you are communicating with, let's say, Asian people compared to European people, right? So and in this case, so let's get back to the NGO. They actually needed to have people in India. They preferred people in India, especially because of cost. Because it's an NGO and they need to look at the budget and the funds that they have. But if they would pay directly to an Indian company, the government is actually monitoring them and other NGOs, and sometimes money disappears. So it actually goes to the government, and they want to prevent that. And so obviously they asked us to help out. For us, it's not an issue. Never it's an issue. It has never been an issue. It will never be an issue. For us, it's not a problem to actually pay any developer, anyone. We're a commercial organization. It's not like that we're an NGO. So so we are still, and we have been doing this for many years already now, working for them, helping them out with, let's say, Indian teams.
Those are some very good stories that really indeed showcase the value for all of the parties.
Yeah.
Given your many years of experience, what major developments do you see in the future in the field of staffing, offshoring, nearshoring in the IT field, and how should companies prepare for these trends and developments?
Yeah. So depending on where you're based, so what I think the future will be like, and I think COVID already showcased it a little bit. I think remote, over time, remote. You can see that already now, but you can also see what Meta is developing. In the Meta space, in the virtual world. At some point, more and more, we will head in that direction. So that's one thing. So if you want to be prepared and you want to be able to work more easily, make sure that documentation and things like that are in English, right? So we've been working with companies in the Netherlands as well. They have documentation in Dutch, and then it's far more difficult to actually get it done because you first need to translate it. Someone needs to explain. If all of your code and all the comments in the code are in Dutch, then it will be more difficult. So if you want to get prepared, make sure that that's one easy step, which you can do. But you can also check internally whether people are open to working with a remote team, are open to working maybe with different cultures. There are even trainings that you can, and courses that you can organize for your internal staff to make sure that they know how to work with cultural differences, for example. So there are a few things that you can already do. as I said, I think it actually opens up a whole new space for many companies, because if you're looking at your local market right now, obviously that's not that's a far smaller market than the global market, and the global market actually gives you more experts, better rates, in total just a bigger pool. It's as simple as that. So if you know how to work with that, and if you have processes in place, you can think of the processes. Obviously, if they want advice, they can reach out to us or to any other. We can help them organize it, or let them know what specific details they need to improve. Looking at their business, we can analyze what they have in place right now, obviously. So that's one thing, getting ready like that, and foreseeing the future. And the other thing, and I think everyone will see that coming right now, that's AI. And AI, I don't think AI will replace everything and everyone. It will be an addition, right? And you still need people who understand how to use AI, how to implement it, and how to make sure. But
Mhm.
things will speed up. Things will speed up because AI will speed up AI at some point, right? So it will actually start evolving. That could be a risk. Many people, I think, are maybe slightly scared of what's going to happen. But I think it will be a very interesting period. Let's say in the coming 5 years to follow, right? So those two things, working more and more and more remote. Everyone now sees it already. You don't have to be at the office. Maybe 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week. But the other days you can work from home if you want to, right? And we have taken that even before COVID already, much further. We are a fully remote team, and a fully remote company. And even if you look at other companies that people might know, like Trello, right? So that's also like Scrum board company. They work fully remote, and it is possible if you know how to work together. So I think that's one thing, and the other thing obviously is AI. But I don't think we should be afraid of AI. I think we should embrace it. Try to see how we can actually implement and think of the process that you have in place right now, and how can you use AI to make that.
Great. I think these are some great quick tips for people, for companies to be prepared,
Yeah,
because I think eventually, as you grow, there is some need from external help. So there's definitely things that companies should prepare for. And again, AI is an opportunity for most businesses. You shouldn't
yeah,
see it as something dangerous.
yeah.
Sander,
I
I
agree.
really want to thank you for this great conversation. If someone is listening, wants to learn more, wants to have a talk with you, wants to learn more on how you can help them, where can they find you?
So obviously shortteams.com, right? Or info@shortteams.com. Obviously, they can send an email, they can reach out, they can find me on LinkedIn or one of my colleagues, and obviously we'll be more than happy to help. And thank you, obviously, for having me and for having this interesting discussion. I think it's interesting. So, anyone is free, obviously, to reach out if they have questions, if
Perfect.
they need
I
help.
will make sure that all of those websites and email addresses are in the description as well, so people can easily find you. I really enjoyed it, Sander. I really want to
Yeah,
thank you, and I want to wish you good luck with everything that you're doing.
thank you very much.